What's poppin' world? Back at it again. Y'all tapped in with the Head of the Game podcast. Without further ado, y'all read the title. Let's get right into it. So, here are some things that I'm not gonna put a list. I ain't got it in order or none of that. I'm just shooting straight off the top, man. You feel me? Far as the top things you need to consider before deciding to go OTR, right? Because there's a lot of different forms of trucking, right? There's box trucking, there's local trucking, there's dedicated, and then there's OTR, things of that nature, right? So OTR typically you're over the road, you're on interstates, now regional or 48 states, in my opinion, is considered OTR. You feel me? Going from state to state, you're sleeping at truck stops, you're in the sleeper. That's traditional truck driving. You feel me? And here are some things that you just want to consider before getting into this profession, because it's more than just acquiring a new occupation. This is a lifestyle change. There's so many different transitionary, elements into choosing this profession that you're going to acclimate yourself to before you feel like you can last in this space, right? So, number one, first and foremost, which I feel like is probably most importantly to everyone, you feel me? Friends and family, away from friends and family. Your hometown, your regular regiment, your regular routine, that is going to be somewhat stripped away from you, right? Now, I wouldn't compare it to like going to the military, but it has somewhat of because you're not away that long, but I will say that you are more so away than you are home, right? So that is one, right? Is that your social life, your connections, the things that stimulate your mind, the things you care about. That's gonna have to be it's not gonna be stripped away from you, but it's gonna be reprioritized, or the accessibility of it is gonna be set in a different place, right? Number two, lifestyle, health, right? Um, you're not waking up with all your amenities, you feel me, that you would need it in a regular household, right? Bathroom, sink, right? So a lot of like showering and stuff like that, you're gonna have to do that at truck stops, public truck stops, you feel me? And showers, if you ain't got shower credit from fueling, showers are sometimes 18, $20, you feel me, per shower. And if you just coming into this industry, you may not have that kind of money. You feel me? You may not just have that kind of money. It may just be a struggle, trying to shower every day. Because if you shower, let's say 6 days out the week, that's $120 a week, right? And like I said, now if you rock it with a company that give you shower credits, cool. But what else? That goes with brushing your teeth, grooming yourself, shaving, so on and so forth. You feel me? Like, you're gonna have to have an alternative lifestyle to stay on top of your health. An additional thing about regarding your health is that the way that you eat. You feel me? Because every place ain't gonna have a grocery store. Every place ain't gonna have, uh, you know, restaurants and things of that nature. You're sometimes gonna have to be subjected to fast food and truck style food, which is very paramount, very essential to be at a meal prep, right? So that's another thing in consideration. You feel me? Is your health, right? Another thing going OTR, right, is that you have to be very good. You have to be a very good planner, right? You have to sometimes telegraph your whole week before it happens. Because if you got one destination and then you got the location where you're at and you're trying to get from A to B, all this stuff in the middle, you feel me? Which is really for like A to Z, all those alphabets in the middle, far as like how far can you drive in one day? Where are the truck stops that you can stop at? Is there parking? Do they have showers? Do they got the kind of restaurants and things and the food that you would want to eat? These are all things that you have to put in consideration, right? Is that the time zones change, weather changes, right? So if you're driving from one state to another state that has a different climate, maybe their elevation is higher, maybe they have more mountains, all these elements and all these geographical things that could make the climate shift. You could literally be driving for 2 hours and end up in a total different climate, right? So dress and plan accordingly, right? That is a super big thing on OTR, right? Is that you got to look up the weather. You got to look up the forecast. You got to look up the destinations, and you got to look up, road closures, things of that nature, because there are going to be roadblocks and obstacles and adjustments you may have to make along the way, right? That sometimes when you're looking through a whole trip plan, you're going to have to sit up there and make adjustments along the way, because it may look like you could get it here at this time, but maybe there's a setback that you have to adjust to still make it there, but it's going to be at a different time, right? So those are three things right there that you're going to have to consider with OTR. Now let's talk about some positives, right? Now, if you come into this industry, right, and here's a controversial one. Come in this industry with nothing, especially if you're young, and I know young people do not, like young people in trucking sometimes don't go together, because you're still trying to live your life, you're still trying to party, you're still trying to, hit the functions up, you're not trying to be stuck in no truck and no truck stop in the middle of nowhere with no one knows who. But the advantage with the right mindset and the right situation, you can cut in line as far as who's successful and who's not successful in this industry, right? This is what you have to take into consideration, is that the money that you can stack, right? So if you're a person that gets in the trucking industry, because unlike most professions, when you go to school, unless you're like a teacher or something like that, you feel me, you're expected to be making some pretty decent money, right? If you're a person that goes into a career in comparison to just, unskilled labor, right? So the money that you can stack in this industry, if set up right, is astronomical based off of all the other things that I had said previously. Like no mortgage, no car note, uh, no relationship, no kids. That's pretty much like the ideal situation right there, is because then you can solely focus on, you can optimize your potential in such a short amount of time, right? You can take whatever job, you can be out for however long. It's not compromising nobody, right? So, and not to sit up there and say, because I don't want to discourage nobody to go into trucking, that because you have a car note, mortgage, girlfriend, children, that you can't be successful in trucking. You're just gonna have to take a different path to get there. Maybe you go local, right? Maybe you go local, and I will say this. This is the only caveat I got to say about that, is that that will be all for naught if your money management skills suck, right? If you're a person that just can't hold on to money, you're always constantly burning a hole in your pocket. You can be set up as well as you want to be. It's only gonna be so effective, right? So my gift to y'all is that will help me save money. You feel me? This is how I saved up for my CDL. I took all my money and I put it in cash, right? Because you can't spend money that you don't have at your disposal, right? So if you got about $1,500 in your bank account and you're a person that love Amazon and love subscriptions and love eating out and love shopping and love just splurging and spending money, go ahead, put yourself on an allowance, right? So if you have it in cash, cash is nowadays probably more harder to spend than ever, right? Because everything is going digital. So that's something to put into consideration. But I'll just leave it off with this: is that you're gonna have to learn how to have the mental fortitude to be able to drive long durations of time, right? Mountains, weight, so many different elements that's gonna dictate the way that the truck decides to operate, breakdowns, doing your pre-trip, so on and so forth. It's so much. This industry is about driving, but there's so many things outside the driving that makes this a profession and not just a regular, whatever, right? So, with that being said, that's what I got for y'all on this video. If I got more stuff coming up, I'll let y'all know. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe.